Major funding for Market to Market is provided by Deere & Company on behalf of John Deere dealers and by this and other public television stations. Additional funding is provided by Friends of Iowa Public Television and the Central Educational Network.
On the muddy Missouri, drought amid a river of litigation. In the country, spilt milk protests, migrant amnesty, and a search for energy alternatives. Those stories and more next.
This is the Friday, September 6th edition of Market to Market, the weekly journal of America's largest industry.
Hello, I'm Mark Pearson. American government officials are continuing to assess just who is in charge in the Soviet Union and for how long as republics split from the Union. American agriculture is also trying to get a fix on the potential for Soviet sales. The Soviet need for food and technology seems clear, but financing remains hazy. If nothing else, an invasion of American trade delegations is generating a boom in Soviet tourism. It seems possible grain sales could be financed by recycled trade junket dollars. Closer to home, economic numbers remain annoyingly stagnant. The U.S. jobless rate of 6.8% remains the same. Productivity of workers still on the job did rise a bit as worker output jumped by an annual rate of 1.9% during the second quarter. And construction spending in July jumped 1.6% for the first increase in 3 months. Sales of new homes, though, remain lethargic. Sales fell 8.5% in July, raising doubts about the prospects of an end to the recession. In the country, mediocre crop prospects coupled with sluggish markets promise future financial headaches for farmers. Additionally, the climate is becoming an irritation as well. Not only is it difficult and expensive to produce crops during a drought, the lack of water can also generate the aggravation of litigation.
Concerns surrounding utilization of the muddy Missouri River don't appear to be getting any clearer. This week, attorneys general from Nebraska, Missouri, Iowa, and Kansas met to ride on the river and hear public testimony to be used in the defense of all institutions, the Army Corps of Engineers. The Corps of Engineers is being sued in federal court by the states of Montana, South Dakota, and North Dakota. Those states, reeling from some of the driest conditions since the 1930s, claim the Corps is releasing too much water from reservoirs, severely affecting recreational and irrigation uses. Lower river states, however, contend that restricting the flow of the river would severely affect municipal and power generation needs, as well as hinder barge traffic.
There are very important economic interests that have to do certainly with navigation of the river, have to do with power generation. Every consumer of electric power certainly must understand that.
The lawsuit is scheduled for federal court trial in Montana next summer. For the most part, the weather outlook on the plains continues to be dry. According to a National Weather Service measurement of drought conditions through September 1st, a large area of the Midwest is beset by moderate drought. Within this dry belt are significant regions spanning several Corn Belt states of more severe drought. And within those regions are large pockets of extreme drought. In other words, the heart of the Corn Belt is more than dry. Finally, fickle weather is leading to less than optimistic crop predictions for much of the corn and soybean belt. Both corn and soybeans are maturing early, and the USDA crop conditions report for the week ending September 1st indicates that only 45% of the 1991 corn crop is rated good to excellent, compared to 79% last year, and 39% of the soybean crop fares good to excellent. The 1990 level at this time was 58%.
A new meat additive is scheduled to be on the store shelves by November. Called Lean Maker, the substance is a blend of oat bran and seasonings. When added to ground beef or sausage, it helps reduce substantially total fat content. Development of Lean Maker was underwritten in part by the National Livestock and Meat Board in the hope of spurring red meat sales. More to come.
Food for thought. A Gallup poll commissioned by the National Restaurant Association shows about 1/3 of the public when dining out will order non-meat dishes if they're on the menu. The poll also shows that 20% of the public chooses a restaurant on the availability of vegetable courses. Though the Baltimore-based Vegetarian Resource Group says only 3% of the public is truly vegetarian, health concerns have driven consumers to demand more vegetables. The Gallup poll reports 88% of those surveyed say they chose vegetables for health reasons.
One of the nation's more mature industries continues to be meatpacking. That fact was underscored this week by the announcement IBP was taken off the market by Occidental Petroleum for lack of a buyer. Elsewhere, we learn a staged media event can make a difference when bad news threatens a crop. We also learn thousands of the nation's farm workers may be eligible for U.S. citizenship, and thousands of Americans may be undernourished by their own bad eating habits. In Washington, Congress reconvenes next week. One issue that awaits lawmakers is the milk crisis. In New York, though, dairymen this week made their position known.
It wasn't spilt milk these farmers were crying over, but low prices. In protest, more than 100 farmers dumped hundreds of gallons of milk onto a pasture in upper New York Wednesday.
It's really essential that we have some type of unity and that we know that we're going to achieve what we want before we start.
Dairy farmers received less than $12 per 100 pounds of milk in July. Farmers say that is the same price they received in the late 1970s. They want an increase to $17 per hundredweight and a new two-tier federal dairy policy based on the cost of production. But picking the right program may not be easy. When Congress reconvenes next week, it will be faced with a mountain of proposals for a new federal dairy program. In Colorado, don't ever let it be said that a good public relations campaign can't turn consumer perception around. In August, sales of Colorado's Rocky Ford cantaloupes plummeted after the Centers for Disease Control issued a warning concerning reports of salmonella infections. But a massive promotional campaign by growers and the governor has apparently begun to turn sales around. While Colorado growers say the salmonella scare will still cost them about $1.5 million, prices have now rebounded to about $5 per crate. In the Southwest, many undocumented migrant farm workers may now have another chance at working in this country legally. A federal judge has ordered the U.S. government to reopen the cases for tens of thousands of illegal immigrants, originally denied amnesty under 1986 immigration reform laws. To qualify, they must have worked on farms in Texas, New Mexico, and Oklahoma and been denied amnesty before November of 1988. The order follows a lawsuit that claims the Immigration and Naturalization Service had arbitrarily changed the rules of amnesty eligibility. IBP, the nation's largest meat processor, unexpectedly went off the sale block this week as Occidental Petroleum, the company's majority owner, began offering stock to its own shareholders. Occidental is currently selling IBP stock at $15 a share, less than expected, and an indication, say some analysts, that Occidental could not find the right buyer. And finally, America's eating habits just don't appear to be getting much better. A study of 4,000 families found that Americans eat too much fat, not enough carbohydrates, and most don't get enough calcium and iron, just as nutritionists have warned for years. Conducted by General Mills, the second largest cereal manufacturer in the United States, the study also found that children who chose cereal for breakfast had, you guessed it, higher nutrient consumption, ate less fat, and had lower cholesterol levels.
Parathion is a highly effective and inexpensive pesticide that is currently used on some 90 crops. But the substance has been blamed for the deaths of thousands of farm workers. This week, an agreement between the EPA and the producers of Parathion was reached that will limit the pesticide's use. Beginning in 1992, it will be restricted to only 9 crops, mostly grains and oilseeds. According to EPA, the application of the substance will be reduced by more than half. Environmentalists call the action 30 years overdue and note it's been banned already in more than a dozen countries, including the Soviet Union. Stay tuned.
On the horizon, this fall, Purdue University's School of Veterinary Medicine is starting what may be the first undergraduate program in animal welfare. According to the director of the School Center for Applied Ethology and Human-Animal Interaction, animal welfare and animal rights groups will be major political forces for the next 5 to 10 years. Under the new program, students may take courses leading to a minor in animal welfare. The focus is on the humane care of farm, laboratory, pet, and zoo animals. Topics include ethics in animals, the biological basis of animal behavior, and interaction between people and animals. No word of plans for a class in barbecue.
When Congress returns next week, some of the unfinished business awaiting it includes a measure requiring a comprehensive review of water resources. The legislation directs the Interior Secretary to review federal water-related activities in 19 western states and make recommendations to the President. According to one of the bill's sponsors, the intent is to conserve and coordinate the use of finite western water resources. Well, the notion of federal coordination sends a chill down the spines of Westerners in non-populous states who fear California will siphon off as much as it can pipe away. The fears are not unfounded. In California itself, farmers are already witnessing the diversion of water from farming to urban uses. But even in the face of such diversions and drought, California continues to function as the nation's garden.
Instead of signaling an end to 5 years of drought, the rains falling on California in March have been succeeded by continued dry times. But don't expect the state to hand over its role as America's salad bowl. California growers, known for their ability to adapt to most challenges, have abandoned such water-sucking crops as alfalfa, rice, and cotton, planted higher-valued vegetable crops, and made their irrigation systems more efficient. They're also relying on more groundwater to fill their irrigation needs. Experts in the state predict that growers may suffer crop shortfalls of up to 20%, far less than doomsayers had predicted as recently as March. Which doesn't mean all is well for the future. The impacts of using groundwater for more irrigation are not really known, and the question of balance between rural and urban water needs has yet to be answered.
While the availability of water remains a question for California growers, the cost of moving that water is also a concern. In Kern County, California growers are banding together to protest rising energy costs. According to the group's spokesman, agriculture has already endured a rate increase of 184% in the last 12 years and will face another 40% hit in the next 5 years. Cost alone is motivation enough for farmers to seek ways of conserving. But California's Energy Commission has also launched an ambitious program to help them. Wayne Bruns reports.
When the Cundy family reestablished their winery in Sonoma Valley last year, they found that a bit of history can go a long way in increasing the profit line. The Cundys abandoned their winery business in the early 1940s, but maintained the family vineyard. When two of the family's sons began rebuilding the winemaking operation several years ago, they decided to create a modern processing facility. But when it came to finding a place to store and age their premium wine, instead of a conventional climate-controlled warehouse, the Cundys chose a means of storage used by winemakers for thousands of years. They built a cave.
Caves are just wonderful places to make wine and have a wonderful feel to them. They're a great place to bring visitors. The wine tastes better in a cave.
But it was money, not just aesthetics, that motivated the Cundys. Wine stored in warehouses required significant amounts of power to cool the wine and maintain the proper humidity. A cave only needs a few kilowatts to run the lights.
It's just the natural temperature year-round, about 60 degrees Fahrenheit, is almost ideal for wine aging. But the big advantage is the humidity, the 90% humidity in the caves, because they're sealed and the water stays in the air. So you get lower evaporation out of the barrels, which translates into savings. This is our 1990s Zinfandel.
The humidity is so even, Noy says he saves a case of wine per barrel each year by using a cave over a warehouse. The local power company is also impressed and awarded Cundy Winery $60,000 for the 500,000 kilowatt hours it would save each year. Interest in cutting energy consumption on the farm has increased as energy prices have climbed. For instance, a gallon of leaded gasoline that cost 36 cents in 1970 was $1.07 in 1990, while electricity costs quadrupled during the same period. But cutting farm energy costs may be easier said than done, since in the past energy conservation programs have focused on residential and industrial use. That was the case at least until 1989, when the California Energy Commission decided it was time farmers got some help in cutting energy costs.
It's not the biggest cost, but it's one of the biggest ones that someone can do something about. You can't do much about your note payments, you can't do much about your property taxes, but you can work on the costs of production, culture, processing, harvesting, and so on, and energy is a big part of that. So I've been up there.
Under the tutelage of Barbara Crowley, the California Energy Commission supplied farmers with a series of loans, grants, and expertise from state universities on how to best reduce each farmer's energy use. To date, the commission has helped over 200 California farmers. Farmers like Walter Hunsaker. Hunsaker runs a cow-calf operation on about 6,000 acres of rolling hills in the southern San Joaquin Valley. He has limited access to surface water for his cattle, and running electricity for pumping to distant watering sites would be expensive. For years, that meant relying on windmills and gasoline-powered pumps to retrieve water from underground supplies.
There had to be a better way to go because I kept track of my costs, and it was pretty expensive to pump water that way because you had to go out and start your pump every day. And then you had to go back to be sure your pump run because, you know, you can't never depend on a little old gas motor.
Hunsaker's solution? Solar power. He currently uses solar panels on 4 different watering sites. With no backup system, the solar panels take enough energy from the sun to pump as much as 8 gallons of water a minute. This one only pumps about 2 gallons per minute, but it also pumps to the top of this 1-mile hill with a 450-foot lift. In exchange for several solar panels and technical assistance, Hunsaker gives the California Energy Commission detailed information on the effectiveness of the solar panels. So far, Hunsaker says the project is so successful, it should pay for itself in just 5 years.
I believe in energy conservation, and I really think down the road this is the only way to go as far as pumping livestock water goes. And you're conserving energy 100%. I mean, why not use what you've got right here that doesn't cost you anything?
But direct forms of power, mainly gasoline, natural gas, and electricity, are not the only ways farmers consume energy. In fact, USDA figures show a steady decline in agriculture's use of those forms of power. But the use of indirect energy, petroleum-based products like fertilizers and pesticides, have remained relatively constant for the last 20 years.
They were not involved in farming prior to that.
Reducing pesticide use and other farm inputs is just what Russ Hose had in mind when he added a computerized data collection system to his operation about 1.5 years ago. Hose and his family have farmed about 800 acres of high-value crops like peaches, plums, and nectarines since 1971. While the business has done well, Hose says an unexpected frost or an invasion of insects could inflict thousands of dollars worth of damage to his crops in a matter of hours. A specialized computer system attempts to reduce that risk.
We can set any type of
Traps positioned at different locations around the farm capture and electronically count insects. Twice an hour, that information is sent by infrared signal back to a computer in the main office where managers decide if there is a need to apply insecticide.
So you're monitoring for pests, and when you see a flight of pests developing, then you go in and treat, as opposed to just going in and every 14 days or 21 days, you go in and spray as a prophylactic type of measure.
10 weather stations also relay information on temperature and soil moisture from 4 different soil depths. Since irrigation consumes much of the power consumed by California agriculture, knowing when to turn on the pumps and when not to can save electricity and water.
No farmer wants to pay more to PG&E, the electric company, for his pumping costs than he has to, or more to the chemical company than he has to. That all goes to reducing his costs and improving his profitability, which is that's our goal in the long run.
Hose's computer system and sensor stations cost him about $35,000. But he says if it can save energy and warn him of potential problems that might cost him hundreds of thousands of dollars if untreated, the price is well worth it. And that, says the California Energy Commission, is what it's all about, convincing farmers that conserving energy can also be good business. I'm Wayne Bruns.
Next, the Market to Market Report.
Wheat prices were stronger while corn and soybean prices were lower this week in Chicago. Nearby wheat futures gained 2.5 cents in the nearby contract. Corn futures traded in a narrow range all week, finishing 4 cents lower on the week. Many traders were on the sidelines awaiting the September 12th USDA crop estimate. Much of the same story in the soybean pits, where the nearby contract finished more than 4 cents lower from last Friday's close. Bean meal finished the week $2.80 lower. Over in livestock, technical factors helped strengthen prices. Nearby fed cattle futures gained more than $2 for the week. Feeder cattle followed suit with a gain of almost $1.50. Hog prices also strengthened, up $1.13. In the financials, COMEX gold added 42 cents per ounce, and the German mark finished 105 points higher for the week. And the CRB index staged a rally of its own, gaining 3 2/3 points to finish the week at 215.05. Here now to lend us his insight is one of our regular analysts, Doug Hjort. And Doug, welcome back.
Thank you.
Quite a week again. We're still sorting out what's going on in the Soviet disunion, what say the Republics are going to have, what's the loose federation going to look like, and bottom line to those of us in agriculture, how much business are they going to be doing with us? What's your feel at this stage of the game, and what's happening over there, and what kind of an impact will it have on us?
Well, I guess my feel is about the same as most others in the industry, and that is that we're still very confused and uncertain about what the final makeup will be. The final makeup we won't know for some time. I do think, though, that some things falling together here, the fact that the old Supreme Soviet was disbanded this week and a new one, a smaller one, supposedly a more effective one, hopefully, put in place, says that even Mr. Yeltsin and Mr. Gorbachev both still believe in a central government of some kind. How much power that'll have and what it will do, we really don't know. Another key thing I think that's going on over there is the privatization of Exportkleb. Now, Exportkleb is the grain buying agency that has been in existence for years, and now, even starting way back before the coup, it was started along this path towards a private entity. The fact that it has been gives us some consolation, some comfort in the fact that grains and oilseeds shipped over to the Soviet Union will be handled by someone that knows how to do it, that has been doing it for a long time, knows how to arrange the transportation and distribution of it. They have not had to worry about the financing for it. And that's the key issue here. And obviously the new government, supposedly it still has whatever means it had before of paying for things, but mainly that was going out and begging for credit. Mm-hmm. And they're still doing that right now, of course, having not purchased anything from the United States, even though Mr. Bush, that is recently, of the $315 million of credit that Mr. Bush brought forward earlier. So still a big, big question mark here, but I think there are some things falling together very quickly in the Soviet Union that will help not only the United States, but the world grain trade work into this, into the Soviet need.
Do you think that the wheat market, for instance, was a little stronger this week? And you've been friendly to wheat for some time now. We've seen quite a rally take place. Is wheat going to be a beneficiary more so than corn at this point? Do you have any kind of a feel for what the demand's going to be on that side?
Well, I don't know. You see, one of the factors on the wheat, it had some good support, all right, like you say, but we were also hoping that wheat would fare better and get a larger percentage of that $350 million or $15 million worth of credit. They didn't. They got a very small portion of it. And that was a bit of concern. I do think that eventually more wheat will move into the Soviet Union, but I think that's going to come perhaps a month or two or maybe even 3 months down the road, not right now.
Have we rallied wheat up about as high as we're going to take it for the time being?
For the time being, probably so. And it might not be too bad an idea to turn loose of a little bit if you've got some storage where, you know, it's running out in commercial storage and have to start paying that storage. I would move some wheat there. Long term, I still think there's some more in the wheat market.
Okay, over on the corn market, as you look at the corn market this week, we're in a very narrow trading range. It looks like it'll depend on that September 12th crop report, whether that'll break up out of that trading range or break down. What's your feeling?
I think that's precisely what the trade is doing right now, is just getting itself into that tight range just to be ready for wherever that report goes. The general consensus seems to be that corn production will be down a little bit from the last report, but I don't think it's going to be a significant drop. Remember, though, we don't have very much room to go. The supply-demand relationships on corn are very tight, and just a small decline could start moving prices up.
Okay, what's your sales target on corn, and when should we make sales?
Well, I think I don't really want to do anything right here, except for those that have to move something at harvest time. I would just cash forward contract right now at this price level and get it done. Plan on storing then the majority of the crop, though.
What do you think will be $3.20 on corn, depending on what the crop is?
That's a long ways away. And a long ways to shoot for a target. If we get that, we're not going to get that now for the next month or two. That would be over the next 4 or 5 month period, depending entirely on the demand side of the picture.
Quickly on the soybeans, again, they were pressured just a little bit. Again, the trading range is there. What's your feeling on soybeans?
Again, we would look for at least a small reduction on the crop report coming up, but probably not enough to make any great difference. Also look for USDA to finally lower the Brazilian crop production number a little bit on this next report. Combine those two together, eventually, maybe not on this report, but on the next one, we'll see some sort of increase in the exports, a lowering of our ending stock. That gives support to our bean market, but certainly doesn't make it a real bullish event right close by.
Nearby, but longer term, you're friendly. Over on the livestock, the hog market this week showed a little bit of strength. Feeder cattle showed a little strength. Fed cattle showed a little bit of strength. Everything was up a little bit. Have we turned around the meat sector?
I don't think we've really turned it around yet. We might be in the process of doing that, especially on the beef. But there's still a lot of cattle in the feed yards that need to move. That is, they're ready or about ready, need to move next week. The futures market is very giddy, especially in the cattle. They want to not be left in the dust, so by golly, they're buying just on any little sign that maybe there's a bottom put in. I think maybe we put the bottom in as far as low on cash prices, all right, some time ago, 3 weeks ago or whenever. But don't get overjoyed with this thing and think that it can just come running out of here and be $4 or $5 higher quickly. It's going to take a lot of work to maintain and hold these price levels that we have.
Okay, should we be hedging hogs at this point with prices we've got in front of us?
I don't think so, but I do think that cash prices will continue down for some time yet. Maybe not more than a couple bucks, I don't know, from this level. But the problem with hedging is that even the October and December futures, they've traded within about a $2 trading range. Oh, you might be able to pick up $1, $1.50 on a hedge here, but I think you're better off just going in the cash market.
Good enough. Thank you very much. That wraps up this edition of Market to Market. Join us next week when we'll take a look at the prospects for reform in the USDA. Until then, I'm Mark Pearson. Thanks for watching. Have a good week.
Market to Market is a production of Iowa Public Television, which is solely responsible for its content. Partial funding for this program is provided by Friends of Iowa Public Television and the Central Educational Network. Major funding is provided by this and other public television stations and by Deere & Company on behalf of John Deere Dealers.